Good to meet you. How do I pronounce your name?
YiYi, thank you for asking.
E. Very good to meet you. Well, you're a stranger to me. How do I know you?
Yeah, maybe I can kick off with a quick introduction. By the way,
Please.
thank you so much for accepting meeting a stranger.
Of
Normally, I
course.
don't expect from another stranger to do that. You are very kind. So, I am a software developer. I just moved from Washington State to North Carolina a couple months ago. And before that, I was investing in Pennsylvania and also Washington State for real estate. And then I begin to after I relocate to North Carolina, I was trying to look around the marketplace in North Carolina, and I noticed a lot of people mentioning Sanford and Fayetteville. So I'm trying to go through bigger pocket to get more info in this area. And so I see your name mentioned a couple times saying, hey, people, if you want to invest in Fayetteville, definitely talk to Alex. And then I browsed through a bunch of posts. I noticed you have a personal website on it. I was really curious about who is Alex exactly. And then I noticed there is a button I can talk to you. Oh, that's a treat for another real estate investor, right? Because when I'm trying to get into a marketplace, normally it's like the real estate agent or broker that's trying to talk to you. Sometimes it's the PM. Rarely there is another investor willing to talk to a new guy in the market. So I really appreciate that.
Dude, that's so funny. Yeah, I have been doing this for like 5 or 6 years. So I do it for the exact reason that you needed when I first started. I was like, who do I
Mhm.
talk to? And there's a lot of people that want to sell you something,
Yep.
and whether it's like, whether it's a realtor, they just want to sell you a house, or a wholesaler, or there's somebody that wants to sell you coaching and a course.
Mm.
And I was fortunate that I stumbled across a couple of investors who gave me their time and taught me what they know,
Mm.
and it changed the trajectory of my life. Like, it changed the trajectory of my life wildly. And so
Mm.
the absolute, in a weird way, I mean, I like it, but the least thing that I could do is provide my time and attention to somebody who might need it in the same way that I've been given that benefit. So I am here for that exact reason. So any way I can make your life better, I will do that.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
Of course.
I'm really curious. How did you meet your mentors or others? What triggers you get started with this way? This you are the first one providing talk to strangers,
Yeah.
or the only one.
Yeah, it's actually not as common as I would think. A lot of people, they unfortunately what people do is they learn how to do this and then they immediately turn around and charge people for it, and I just find that, well, it just doesn't suit my personality. So I I don't know. How did I find a couple of friends of mine, now friends? I found them in a few ways. One, if you go on the internet like you did
Hmm.
and you lurk and you just kind of like look around for things, then you are at the mercy of what people offer willingly out loud. What
Hmm.
I go out of my way to say, I will talk to you, which, I exist, so that method works. But there's a different method that most people, the overwhelming majority of people, don't do, which is they tell the internet what they want.
Mm.
And so if Yi goes to the internet and says, "Hey, I'm looking to talk to people in Fayetteville, North Carolina," um, the results are actually much better
Oh, that's interesting. That's
by
interesting.
just by just asking.
Go to, for example, a Facebook group for local investors and then ask there.
And just say, "Hey, I'm here. I want to meet other investors. Is there anybody around that wants to meet?" And you'd be astounded how many people will respond yes, because the internet is set up in a hilarious asymmetry in that
Mm.
99% of the internet is passive,
Mm. Yeah.
meaning they
Yeah.
consume. 1% of the entire internet is create. I mean, 100% of the internet is created by only 1% of the users. So if you can find a way to go from consumer to
Mm-hmm.
creator, even a
Mm.
little bit, you're in the 1%. And the amount of people that then watch your posts flips from you, along with the other 99% of the internet looking for information. You say, hey, I'm an investor in Fayetteville, and it's like, oh, well, you'll get 100, that 99% of consumers now can see that post and they might react to it. So when you ask me, like, how did I find these people? I asked. I just, I just posted. The other thing is, I do the same thing in person. When people ask me what I do, I'm a real estate investor. I buy commercial properties in Fayetteville, North Carolina, or I buy commercial properties. I'm interested in Des Moines, Iowa, or I'm interested in some commercial resort properties in South Jersey.
Oh,
but if you don't
cool.
tell people, they don't know. And so the astounding thing about the internet is I've done nothing like hard. I'm just loud.
Yeah,
So I
that makes
encourage you to
sense.
be a little bit louder.
Yeah, totally, totally. I think it also depends on like what stage you are in, right? Because I'm new in the market, so what I did when I was beginning to invest in Pennsylvania is also I tried to create some post it in some Facebook groups, and trying to see if anyone knows anyone out there. And I also cold call a lot of owners in their markets. Just try to introduce myself. I'm not trying to buy anything from them. Just see if they are willing to chat. I think I tried for like a month. Only there's one very old gentleman, but really really nice. He was willing to talk a little bit more regarding real estate, and now it becomes a friend. I actually visited him last year, and I plan to do it this year. But I feel it's extremely hard that you just get started in a new marketplace. If you have a couple of property under your belt, it will be much easier.
Um, kind of. I think that's definitely in your head more than that's real. But I do think there's something to go with the experience. I mean, I'm giving you time,
Oh yeah.
so I think there's a confidence that comes with a little bit of experience, and that confidence is valuable. But there's a lot of people that will give you time regardless of your experience. Now, I will say, if you have no experience and you go ask somebody for their time, and then a year later you still haven't done anything, and then a year later you still haven't done anything, eventually people will
Yeah.
stop giving you their time.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
have to be a good investment of people's time too, which means you have to sort of show people that you're going to use the information they give you. But yeah, I mean, what about like there's a lot of bigger pockets. Meetups. There's a lot of meetup.com. There's a lot of Facebook meetups. There's Pints and Properties. There's a lot of meetups around town that you can go, whether it's in Fayetteville or anywhere there's conferences. There's a lot of places you can go to meet like the people you need to meet. Have you done a lot of that?
Not really. As an introvert engineer, it's extremely hard for me to get outside and meet people in person. I got really nervous about that. And another thing, I got two small daughters. So it's going to be really hard for me to say, hey, I need to spend a night outside of the family, go with someplace. It sounds like an excuse.
Um, no, I'm not saying it's an excuse. I mean, look, I'm a hyper extrovert, so I talk mostly to introverts because extroverts don't need my help, right? So I mostly talk to
Yeah.
introverts. In fact, that's why I do a lot of these talks, because the extroverts I meet in person, it's the introverts that are like, wait, I can meet this guy one on one and they come from my own home without a crowd. Like, that's very appealing mostly to introverts. So I understand the plight of the introvert, or I try to at least. That being said, yeah, it's hard, but you're gonna have to do some of it anyway.
Yeah, choose
So
your heart.
where do you live now? Yeah, that's right. Where do you live now?
Live in Cary.
Oh,
That's, yeah, close to Raleigh and Durham.
yeah. I have some friends. There's definitely some bigger pockets. There's definitely some real estate meetups in Cary. Also, I have a friend, a very good friend, a partner, who lives in Fayetteville that has a meetup once a month. It's a small endeavor, 10 people, and it's usually like on a Saturday morning at a reasonable, 9 or 10 a.m. or something like that. But my partner, it's at his shop, it's at his office, and he's my property manager and my partner on like 60 doors. So we've been doing business for like 10 years. He taught me most of what I know. So if you ever wanted to go and meet him, that's a good, not too big of an endeavor, not like a Thursday night loud, like a Saturday morning quiet real estate meetup with with some really good folks.
Well, that's a great offer. I think I have to take. Would you mind if sending me an introduction email or something, or like whatever the best way you feel?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll send you the link to the next event.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's not really good. He's not really good at like social networking.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of a little old school, right? He's in person. So,
I see.
but I'll send you the event, and you know, I would recommend you go. Find a way.
Yeah, totally. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, by the way.
of course. That's what this is for. I'm trying to find the next event here on my buddy's page right now. But I'll actually let me introduce you to this guy. This guy named Fahaben. I'll introduce you to him, and
Mhm.
he runs the event now. It used to be my event that I would run, and then I moved, um, and he runs it now. But I'll send this to you in a email as soon as we get off the conversation here.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Alex, this is how you get started, like going to the meetup and trying to post things online and then network with the local folks.
Yeah. Dude, if you imagine, it's a weird phenomenon, but like everybody brainwashes themselves with what they think is normal. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, how can I explain this? Where are you from originally?
Beijing?
Beijing. I don't know the economic situation there, but I imagine it's fairly somewhat different.
Mm-hmm, probably.
Yeah. So like, which one is normal? Is that economic situation normal, or is the American situation that you're in Cary, is that normal?
Well, I think all of them is normal from my
Right.
perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, which one do you want to be in?
Well, I'm currently working here because US somehow overpay for software engineers. But in
Right.
future, I'm probably
So,
going to go back. But both of environment I'm pretty familiar with.
yeah. So, like, imagine if you hung out with people who all they did all day was, buy real estate,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just started to think that that was normal because that's what everybody did all day.
Mm.
So, like, if you want to buy real estate, you just got to find the people who are doing it, and then be like, "How'd you do that?" And they say,
Mm.
"Oh, like this over here." So when I got started, with Roderick, that's the guy in North Carolina, in Fayetteville, my partner.
Mm-hmm.
He was just buying properties, and I'm like, "Well, how are you buying these properties?" He's like, "Oh, well, I got this chick named Kim, and she just lists all the foreclosures, and then I go and look at them, and I just put an offer in, and then we get some." And so he gave me Kim's number, and then she started sending me the foreclosures, and I was like, "What about this one?" And she's like, "Yeah, that one's good. Buy that one." And so it's like, it's this cost, and then so you just buy it.
Oh.
Now, now, like things are harder now, right? Because we're not in this foreclosure market, but the idea is the same. I just partnered up on a deal in Maryland that's like a $10 million resort property. Now I don't have $10 million, but the guy who bought the property, that he gave me a partnership slice.
Mm.
I've known him for 5 years. Why? Because I go to these events and we're part of this normal social circle, and he sees me all the time. And like for him, it's just normal day to day business, but for me, it's like a new opportunity.
Mm. Makes sense.
Does that make
Makes
sense?
sense.
And so
Yeah.
if you want to if you're like, how do you get started? I'm like, it comes back to what you said before about like, oh, I'm just, I'm new. It's hard. Like when I'm new to talk to these investors and stuff. And it's like, no, you have to become the investor before you can actually buy stuff generally. So what I would suggest is like, understand what you want to do. Like, hey, I want to buy, like, you want to buy rentals?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You want to buy rentals. So like find somebody with a bunch of rentals. Roderick's a good one. You find a bunch of rentals, then you're like, just hang out with that guy, right? Or hang out with other people who have rentals in Cary, and then find out like what is it that they're doing every day to get that rental, and they'll tell you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Somebody's like, hey, I just bought this rental. It's like, how'd you do it? Well, I have a wholesaler, or
Mm.
I do my own wholesaling, or I just, I bought it from this guy that I know, or whatever the case. And it's like, just find somebody who's doing it, that they do it all the time. Ask them what they do. 9.9 out of 10 times, they'll tell you what they're doing.
Mm.
and then you
Yeah.
just copy them, and you try to be like you don't want to be you want to have good manners, let's say, right? You don't want to be somebody that's like, you know, tell me everything you do, and then you treat them like shit. So you got to be a good sort of you got to manage that relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Um,
basically, be at the right circle, be with the right people, and then trying to get build a relationship with them, learn from what they're doing.
yeah, that's how I do it. It's not complicated, but it is people, and I know you kind of expressed that that's maybe not your strongest area. But there's a lot of introverts that have a lot of success too. So it's not like you can't do this. But it really is just that. It's going on. It's exactly what
Mm-hmm.
you just did. It's going on bigger pockets. It's finding out people like Alex. It's finding out people like Roderick and Fayetteville, or people who are in Cary, and being like, hey, can I take you out for dinner? Can I take you out for lunch? Do you want to go grab a beer? How'd you do this? Who else do I need to meet? Yada yada yada. And you feel like you're grasping at straws for a lot of time. You feel like you're not making any progress, and then something happens, and you end up buying a bunch of property, and you're like, how this is crazy, but it works. It
Mm-hmm.
works 100% of the time. You just have to kind of you know curate your social group quite a bit.
Mm. Makes sense. Makes sense. I think I did the reverse thing in Pennsylvania. Because on bigger podcasts, I listen a lot of the podcasts there. What they suggest is that hey, you find a local realtor who understand market, contractor, property manager, and then you build this team on the ground, and then you begin to feel comfortable buying properties in that area. Well, I did the same thing in Pennsylvania. I'm still trying to see how the result goes, but um, in that case, you have a conflict of interest, right? Because they are trying to live on your commission. So they're probably not going to throw you in a really, really bad situation if they're aware of that. But still, you don't have a third like party of eyes that's saying, hey, is that a really good deal in this area or not? Like you don't have the sanity check on your end. So that's why I feel like now I want to get into North Carolina. It's probably getting started with investors is a better approach.
Yeah, go talk to somebody who doesn't stand to gain anything from you. My buddy Roderick is good people, and then I'll introduce you to my buddy. He's the one that has that place, but I'll introduce you to my buddy Fahaben. He lives down there. He's an okay investor. He's still new at it, but these are good people that don't have anything to sell you or take from you. So at least you have somebody that will give you a good sounding board. Somebody that's just genuinely like, hey, if I can help you, I can help you. If not, I don't need anything from you.
Exactly, exactly. I
Yeah.
think like for me, just get started in a new marketplace. Sometimes I just need some high level clue. Hey, is that a good area I'm looking at, or I'm wasting time here? Something like that. Really, really simple.
Yeah, when I was buying properties, I was looking at MLS deals, I was looking at wholesale deals, and I was buying
Mm-hmm.
all these. I was looking at all these properties. But how do I know? Same as you. How do I know it's a good deal? The realtor tells me it's a good deal, but the realtor gets paid if I buy, not if I make
Yeah.
money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a friend who I met on Bigger Pockets, and just randomly, he said one day in a bigger, he's like, hey, I'm coming to Fayetteville. Anybody that live there? And I was like, I'll hang out with you. And we ended up getting a beer and being friends. Didn't want anything from him. Didn't need anything from him. He had nothing to give me. He didn't even live in the town. Well, now he had bought like 4 or 5 deals in Fayetteville. He knew the Fayetteville market at least a little bit. So every
Oh.
time that I had a deal, I would send it to him and be like, Lee, is this a deal? And he'd say, yeah, that's a deal. You should buy it. And I'd be like, yo. And then one day I was like, I think this is a deal, but I'm scared. And he's like, okay, I'll buy it. And I was like, well, if it's a deal, I don't want you to buy it. I want to buy it. He's like, well, then buy it. And I was like, well, I'm scared. He's like, well, I'll buy it. And so we went back and forth. And I said, how about this? I'll give you the deal. I want to see if you're actually going to buy this thing. And you just give me a finder's fee. And he's like, all right. So I sent him over the deal. He bought it immediately. Right? He's like, this is a
Oh.
great deal. He bought it immediately. He sent me $1,500, and he probably made 50,000. He just but that helped me
Mm-hmm.
because now it wasn't a realtor, it wasn't somebody else, it was somebody that was looking out for my best interest, but also was like, look, I'm here to make money.
Mm.
So if you want to make money, Alex, I'll let you make money. But if you don't want to make money, I'll make it. But that day, really, that lesson will save me forever, because I realized that I knew what a good deal was, and it wasn't the deal that was getting in the way; it was my fear.
Yeah,
And so that
totally.
lesson really helped me out. Not to say I still don't make that mistake. Everybody gets emotional sometimes, but it was good to have him on my side because of that.
Yeah, totally, totally. I can echo a little bit. Originally, when we were living in Seattle, we got an investment condo. So before that, it's really, really hard to pull the trigger if I know some, if I think like this is a good deal. But after like we bought a primary residence and we have been looking into the market for like a couple months, and then when the condo pops up, and immediately know, hey, this one's it's not going to get much cash flow in Seattle market, but it's like you're not losing money. So in Seattle, that's pretty good. It's a big appreciation marketplace, right? So we pull the trigger immediately, basically. I think I don't have this like, hey, I need to like emotionally decide, but I can totally see your position. You'll probably get way more deals than I do, and you'll take a lot. So I think for me, it's very similar to the situation. I'm not getting to the place that I can recognize a good deal in Fayetteville. So a third eye will definitely tell me, hey, this is not that bad neighborhood. Don't consider that. Or hey, you are getting close. This is average. You can find this.
Yeah, having people around that know the market, and then like you said, because you asked me about getting started. Once you have some reps, once you know the market, then you're like, I know what's good and what's bad because I see all
Yeah,
these
yeah.
deals. But in the beginning, yeah, you need somebody around to be like, Fayetteville has areas that you don't want to buy in. I don't care how good the deal is, right? I see stuff sometimes. People send me deals. I don't really buy in Fayetteville anymore, but people send me deals, and they're like, "Hey, the numbers look great." I'm like, "That place is a tragic nightmare. I don't want to go in that neighborhood." So you can tell me the numbers work all you want on paper, but we don't live in a world of paper. We live in a world of,
Hmm.
you know, tenants and drug addicts and you know, I don't want bullet holes in my rental. I don't care what the percentage return is. So that's why it's important to have people around that know the market. So they're like, yeah, don't buy that neighborhood. I don't care how
Hmm.
good the deals are. So yeah, you have to have people. But that really is what it is, dude. It ain't nothing special. It's the same as this. It's finding a couple people. You get lucky, right? You get lucky. But you find a few people in your life that will be like, okay, I know what you're trying to do and I can help. And they will. And it doesn't take much. A couple of those people will change your life.
Yeah, totally, totally. I already feel like I'm finding the right people. You already introduced me to an event, and then there's another investor, right? So that's something I will definitely be able to get me started.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know a bunch of people in Fayetteville, but if you know Roderick, you're basically set. He's kind of hard to get a hold of sometimes, yada yada, but you don't need somebody that's every day. It doesn't sound like you need somebody that's going to handhold. You just need somebody that's going to be a sounding board here and there.
Yeah.
But I'll introduce you to a good group of people that are in that area. No problem.
Well, that would be awesome, man. That would be awesome. For the most of the time, I'm still trying to form my buy box. I think in Fayetteville, workplace well is going to be single families because I don't see much small multis there. And for single families in a relatively good area, and I can get some long-term tenant maybe in Class C or Class B area, that would be good. I just trying to avoid the war zone you just mentioned.
I I hear you. Yep. If you can get B and C class, you're in good shape. Jack Britt is really good. That's a really good school district. That's a good area, but they're usually more expensive. But I'll introduce you to Fahaven. And then, yeah, what I would recommend is, like I said, my buddy Roderick, he's just not going to text. But if you can get down to Fayetteville for one of those
Mhm.
events, and I know you said that's a little bit scary, but if you can get down for just the first one and just kind of, suck it up and meet him and shake hands with Roderick, like, it'll be a game changer. So
Okay, so now this
that's the
is
path
my
that I would
goal.
go.
This
That's the
is
path
my
that I would
goal
go.
now. Okay, totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. And also, I feel maybe this is more like rentals. You get to there once, it's going to be easier next time. I don't know if you have the same feeling about this.
Yeah, dude, that's just life. The first time is the hardest. The first time is the hardest. Like even my first rental was a terrible. It was not a good deal. So, because then what happens? You you get something, you think you know what it's going to make,
Hmm.
and then you find out if you're right or not. You know, you find out if you're right, and if you're wrong, you learn from the next time. So you get a deal, and you're like, hey, deal's 150 grand, and I think it'll rent for this, and then you go out there to the market and you find out, hey, it actually rented for a little bit more than I thought, And so we made a little bit more money. Or you can start doing weird stuff. I mean, all sorts of weird things come up, dude. Like for years, we don't really do it as much anymore, but for years, the Section 8 rental rent rates were way higher than the regular rates.
Oh, really?
So what we would
Fayetteville?
do in Fayetteville, it's not so much anymore, but it used to be like we could get like a house. What was it? We would take a lot of the houses we were buying had like great rooms or like second living rooms. So they'd be a 3-bedroom house with like a second living room or like a great room. And so what we would do is we would convert it to a 4th bedroom.
Oh, okay.
And if we convert it to a 4th bedroom, you know, if it was a 3-2, you know, rent would be like $750 or $800 a month. But if we converted it to a 4-2 and rented it at Section 8, they'd pay like $1,000 a month.
Whoa.
And so it's those little things that you find out where you're like, oh, for $5,000 or for, you know, $2,500, I can add a 4th bedroom and make this house, you know, and get an extra $300 a month in rent. And, you know, that's a big jump for those little properties. So
That's huge.
we go off on these. So that's what we would do. We'd ended up finding like, hey, now what we do is we buy the houses that have that 4th bedroom or that big great room. And so that just takes reps. You're never going to figure that out on paper. That's just you get reps. And even now I have properties that I'm like, oh, the deals that I thought would cash flow way better don't do so well. And some of the deals that I didn't think anything of, they do really well. And it's like, why? Oh, it turns out the area's, you know, maybe a little bit different than you thought. And it's just reps, dude. You know, it's
yeah.
I think a lot of people when they buy rentals, they think about it like they're going to play the lottery. And it's like, this thing's going to make me, I'm going to play the lottery. And if I win, you know, I'll be rich forever. And it's not. It's more like, I think about it more like the gym. You know, you don't go to the gym and get in shape one day. You go to the gym every day, and over time, slowly but surely. And so the question is like, which day in the gym is the one that got you in shape? Which day did the trick? And it's like, it's a law of averages.
Yeah.
So you got to go get a couple properties, and then you kind of like over time you learn how to get better, right? Because even just going to the gym doesn't get you there. You got to go to the gym and work out hard.
Yeah. You need to do the work consistently.
You got to do the work consistently. Yeah.
Makes sense. That totally makes sense. I think what I'm missing is the buy box. I'm going so in my marketplace in Pennsylvania. I look at my buy box basically every day. But here in Fairfield, I just need to form the buy box, talk to local investors who understand the dynamic there. Like for example, the bonus room you mentioned. That strategy I would never figure out myself. Like just checking the buy box, right? You have to have someone who did that knows the market.
Yeah, I didn't figure it out myself either. It was Roderick, you know? I've never figured anything out. It's always been like this guy does this thing over here, but then that guy over there, he knows how to fund the deals. Right? And then this guy over here does contract work. And so it's always been like, it's never been, here's the thing. It's always been finding 3 experts that are all, you know, like all doing some different thing that you can find out how to make them work together. So it's never been me figuring all these things out for myself. It's always been me, you know, meeting people who are better at it than me and implementing what they know.
Yeah. But you're able to figure out the people, which is the most important part in this business.
Sometimes it is, yeah.
Okay, cool. That's great. So, Alex, last question before I drop out. I know we are already at the 30 minutes mark. Knowing what you know today, I know you already gave me advice regarding meeting the people locally. Is there any other suggestion you will be giving me? Like if you come back to my situation, what you would do?
Yeah. You can do more than you think, but it's going to take more. You got to work way faster, way harder. Because if you have a plan to get 10 rentals in the next 10 years, you'll hit it. And then when you hit the 10 years, you realize that you could have done 100 if you had have a bigger sense of urgency. You know, what could be done in 3 months might be able to get done in 2 weeks if you had this sense of urgency. And that means you now have what could get done in 2 weeks. Now it's like, well, what are you going to do for the other 2.5 months? You could get another 3 months worth of work done in that next month or whatever, you know? So the biggest thing I'll say, the biggest thing that I'm struggling with right now is like I've gone kind of fast, but I could have gone way faster if I had a deeper sense of urgency.
Oh, interesting, interesting. Trying to push
So I'm going to send you,
yourself.
for example, I'm going to send you the email for this group, and it's like you could go next month, or you could go this month, or you could go in 3 months, but you should go like immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And when opportunities arise, it's like you got to move fast on them because you end up wasting time. So urgency,
Makes sense. That totally makes sense.
and also the mistakes that you make, you get those out of the way faster when you're urgent.
That's a good point. You're going to make it
You know?
anyway.
You're going to make the mistakes anyways. You might as well make. The more you can make, the more you can learn from them. So fast, urgency.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense. By the way, thank you so much for sharing your experience with me. That's really, really helpful to get me started. Really appreciate that.
Dude,
And I
my
do not
pleasure.
take that for granted. You are the first one I made. I don't need to beg for time. I'm just waiting to give the 30 minutes of your life. That's amazing.
Dude, here to help. I'm glad. Hopefully it's useful, and then like stay in touch. If you when you close a deal, reach out to me.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Thank you so much, Alex.
Dude, my pleasure. Very good to meet you. Be well.
Yeah, have a good rest of the day. Bye.
All right, see ya.